Hello. I hope no one watches this till the morning and is sleeping sound. I was gonna say good evening, but yeah, hopefully this is, if at all, viewed in the morning time because it's 2 a.m. But I think I finally know what it is to process emotional trauma and emotions. But like, why does it have to happen when I'm trying to sleep? It could be because I was reading this book before I went to sleep, but not like right before. There was actually quite a big gap of time in between, but I did read a bunch of this, and it's by Gabor Mate. It's called The Myth of Normal, and it says trauma, illness, and healing in a toxic culture. So I've been on like the parenting part of it, like raising children and stuff like that, and meeting children's needs and things like that. I've been on that, like, for example, chapter 13, forcing the brain in the wrong direction, the sabotage of childhood. I think that's that's the chapter I'm on, actually. So I don't know if that's what sort of spurred my brain to think of just memories from my childhood came up, and it's not that traumatic, but to me it was, I guess. I don't know. It's not that intense. Like, one of the memories had to do with a pet frog, but it's intense for me. There was like multiple different moments sort of popping up in my head, and but I was like, these are things that I've remembered already or somewhat recently, kind of like, I don't know, the last year, the last little while, I've been remembering more just moments from my childhood, but like not actually experiencing the emotions and feelings that I was experiencing. Like, it came up also just so much more detailed, and like in that moment, just the like knowing maybe what I felt as a kid. I guess just times where one of the main ones was just about like not, I was quite young. I think I was probably in between, I was at least 5, but I was probably a little bit older, but like I think definitely under 10 years old, like maybe 7 or 8, or not even, I don't know. It was the first house I was in, so I just know that it had to be when I was quite young for sure. And it's just like, it's silly to talk about, but I don't know, I feel like part of my process is to also talk about, but not to an actual direct person, because I'm just so sensitive, and I so get these vulnerability hangovers, is what I realized it is, like sharing things that, I don't know, are emotional to me. And I don't know, if I get a certain response from a person, like it just, if I get a certain response that is maybe, in my opinion, like not meeting what I need in that moment, like the emotional needs or something, it just really just gets so much worse, and it just triggers me, whatever. So I think it's good to more fully process it here, because I don't know, this specific thing's just like not processed yet. But anyway, so I was about maybe, so let's say 7 years old or something, and I had a pet frog, and you have to feed the frog crickets, like live crickets. You get them from the pet store and stuff. And yeah, my sister had a toad, I had a frog. And yeah, my dad, I think, was mainly the one that took us to the pet store, or like he was supportive of us getting the pets or whatever. And then in the beginning, we did have lizards too at some point. And I'm trying to remember, were the lizards before the frog or after. Maybe this like frog thing was supposed to be more of a bigger responsibility at the time or something, because I remember getting more help like with the lizards or whatever. I was just little and I was freaked out by the live crickets, but my dad would help. Like in the very beginning, he was helping me feed the frog, and then what I remember is he just stopped helping me and just like refused to give any support to help to, you have to pick the crickets up with like tweezers in this bucket. Like there's all these live crickets jumping around, and it just, I was a little kid, and to this day I'm still just freaked out by bugs and stuff. And I just couldn't, it's really sad. I still feel guilty to this day, like that my frog, my pet frog, starved to death because I was too scared to feed it. And I was like, I felt like I must have been desperately pleading. Like I think I remember trying to get help, and like it was just this, my dad sometimes, nothing against him, and he was raised his own way, whatever, like he would just do this sort of tough love thing with me. Like I think he just thought I really needed to toughen up or something. But from reading this book is really good too, because it's not about parent blaming at all. Like it's just sort of, it's explaining the science and everything behind what specific emotional needs children need to have met to not have like long-term effects and stuff like that, and sort of how to do it. Or it references multiple times, it references traditional like tribal practices, like practices that there's still some cultures using with yeah, just raising children, stuff like that. So anyways, it just, I felt like such shame and guilt and bad that my frog died because of me. Like I think I did in that at that time I probably like fully did blame myself, and it was like, oh, I suck, like why can't I pick up the crickets? Like I think I tried to, and I just was really panicky. And I didn't have necessarily specific cricket phobia. Like obviously I got one from having to feed live crickets, but like at this time too, as a little kid, I had multiple different phobias. Like I was extremely frightened by lightning, that I would like hide in the basement, or like have anxiety, just insane anxiety. Like if there was just one little cloud in the sky, I remember having, I didn't want to be outside. Like I had just like anxiety. If there was no clouds, it was okay, but if there was some clouds, I just like had this anticipatory anxiety that it could just start rain, like storming and that. And I don't know, I think I got that phobia because on the news one time, like someone's house got hit by lightning, and then I got all scared about lightning, and then I started researching about it, and then I was like, oh my god, lightning can actually go through the window or something. It's so rare, and it just like doesn't happen. But even before that, like I just remember having kind of nightmares, at like really having trouble sleeping as a very young child. So I had fear and that, and I was scared of things, and so I was scared of the live crickets that I was supposed to feed my frog. But I couldn't face it. Like it just sucked that my frog starved to death and died because I couldn't face feed the live crickets. But now, like I've been, I don't know, I was just crying, like I was in bed, and I just started experiencing these memories, and in a different way, because at the time I think I just sort of shut down, and like I don't even know if I cried about it. Like I feel like my emotions were sort of shut, like I just got yeah, just like emotionally shut down, and was just like, oh, that's just what happens. Like I remember just, I didn't fully maybe feel the feelings at the time, and that's what I'm realizing, like what it is when you have stored emotions, or like emotional, why it's trauma is because it wasn't processed or released. Like it got stored, and it's now affecting you in your, I don't know, you're carrying that thing in your body or something, or like you're having experiences now emulate that, or something similar happens and it triggers that thing. So like I definitely have a full-on I kind of have meltdowns over not getting help with certain things in my adult life, like feeling like I'm all alone in a certain task or something like that. And um yeah, there's just like been times where I worry if I'm going to get a certain amount of support from my partner or something like that. And or like before I'm even necessarily rejected by, not even if it's like my partner, even if just like say I'm just trying to return something, like I just anticipate people should be like, yeah, no, I can't help you, I can't, I just, nothing I can do or whatever. I don't know, I think it's clicking now with that specific thing that I have, more of where that comes from, because there was like other things of where I think I just like wasn't really getting that type of support or emotional support. Like I remember I don't like talking negatively or critically about my parents or family or whatever, but this is just from like, it's like they did the best they could, and it's shaped who I am. Like I felt like everything was also meant to happen so I could like figure these things out for myself and try to process it, or like, yeah, maybe notice the patterns of the cycles and whatever for my own journey. So there's nothing against anyone here, but it's just like hard not to bring up any examples to, get my point across, or just explain and to help other people who resonate with the stuff. But I do remember, and I have like kind of briefly mentioned this to my dad, because I think he even brought up, he was like, yeah, I think he's even said something like, oh, I'm sure I fucked you up in some way, with how I was or whatever it was. And I was like, well, I just sort of briefly said this thing, but I was like, oh, it's whatever though. When he would help me with my math homework, like he would just get really easily flustered. I felt like he had quite a short temper. If I wasn't understanding the math, he got just like pretty angry about it, and like raised his voice, but wasn't like fully screaming at me, but like was yelling at me maybe, kind of, or just flustered and just like cold and just really irritated with me, and just like, why are you getting, like, I just felt like a stupid idiot. I'm sure, yeah, I felt like a stupid idiot. And so these memories are coming up, and then also just like tough love things, and just like accidentally being called by his girlfriend's name one time instead of my name. Our names were kind of close, but there's things that just like happen that we have already sort of talked about, like at the time that it kind of maybe happened, or a bit after, or like, I don't know, but I still was just like not feeling like, obviously I had just had this like nature within me that I've been learning from the book of wanting to be accepted. Like my child brain could not help but be like, I'm not good enough to be like, for this to be happening. Like wanting to maybe spend quality time, and not seeing my dad because he ended up like living somewhere else in a different city, and like not only being able to see him like once a month ish, or not even, and then like getting all excited because it's like, oh, I have this soccer tournament that he's taking me to, that like I get to finally have that time, and then like not even knowing, I think that maybe I knew that he had a girlfriend at the time. I felt like I found out he had a girlfriend, and also she was like coming on this trip with us. Like I found out like right before, and then also during that trip he like called me by her name by accident. And I don't know, and I guess her kids came too, which is fine, but just like it just, those things obviously. And then just like when your mom really involves you in her divorce issues and literally says like, your dad doesn't love you, like he moved away and he would have stayed in the same city if he loved you, like it just fucks with your brain. Like it obviously just, it's a mind fuck, right? Again, nothing against these people, have their own trauma for sure. Like was way different than what I went through. You know, it was probably way more intense, way more emotionally unavailable, way more like emotionally neglectful and stuff like that. Like this is just generational stuff, but it is just sad how what is really spoken about in the book, at least the section that I'm on, all about the child, raising children, whatever, like they talk about trauma just in the womb and stuff, or how if the mother is really stressed, those chemicals or hormones or whatever like have an impact on the fetus itself and everything like that. And even if like the partner is stressed, like the father, it was saying something like the father being stressed had more of an impact during pregnancy than the mother themselves being stressed. I don't know. It was a scientific study or something like that. So there's that. But then there's like the whole sleep training thing. Like if you don't know sleep training, I guess it's just like training your like baby how to sleep properly. And they were advised, I think it was in the 70s, they were advising the parents to just like say goodnight one time, to be affectionate with them but firm, like just be like good night, and then just like leave them no matter what. If they sound like they're just dying and egg and crying and crying and crying, they were like telling these mothers, advising them, like I guess in books or like certain doctors or something, it was like its own philosophy or parenting way. They were like, this is the way to do it. It was to just abandon the friggin' child. And that's the kind of stuff that causes anxious attachment styles, avoidant attachment style, like a non-stable attachment style. If you don't know about attachment styles, highly recommend it. I'm getting more of a healthy, stable attachment, but I have had an anxious attachment style pretty intensely for probably my whole life up until now, it being a little bit better, like working on it. But yeah, it's just sort of sad how they were encouraging mothers to go against their natural inborn instincts. Like it's cool because he incorporates interviews and a lot of different references and everything like that, bunch of different literature on the subject matter. And so there's some quotes from mothers being like it was so painful for me to go through that, to not tend to my child when they were crying. So yeah, that stuff like impacts, obviously, like I feel like we had a whole generation or multiple generations of people who came to have like unhealthy attachment styles, or excuse me, you know, like mental health issues and stuff like that. And what's really coming full circle for me is definitely like specifically the mental illness stuff, where it's just crazy. It's crazy. It's nuts that psychiatrists, like they do not, maybe it's different. The last time I dealt with a psychiatrist was how many years ago? Maybe like 10 years ago. The last time I dealt with one, I was not asked ever. I was in the psych ward. Hey, did you go through any type of emotional trauma or anything, or like they didn't get any of my past history, or like really family relationships or anything like that from what I remember. It's just was all solely focused on me and my issues, and that I didn't have a sense of identity, like self-identity. Like they just don't give a shit of like what might have caused that. And then what the psychiatrists do is they will refer you to therapy, which will take like 8 months on a wait list to actually get into and start. But in Canada here, at least 8 months. It's probably even crazier now. Like that was 10 years ago, and they're crazy overcapacity all the time for mental health resources. But they mostly will try to get you on medications that in my experience and opinion, don't actually resolve the issue. Yes, they can help. They definitely help a lot of people. But in my opinion, it's like it's an issue that could be more resolved and processed, that this thing is like, it's just sort of suppressing the symptoms. It's like dampening the reactions going on in your brain and stuff like that are constantly maybe being triggered and happening. And so it's happening, but then this is just like putting a bit of a damper on it. But it's not entirely working. Like a lot of people who are on medication, well, when I was in the psych ward, like pretty much everyone there, like I ended up there because I took a medication. It was an antidepressant and I had a bad reaction to it. And so, yeah, I ended up there from having sketchy side effects. So everyone there, from my memory, was on medication unless they had like they had maybe overdosed or something like that, where they were detoxing, in a way. Like, but pretty much people were, like there was a girl there that told me she got a new set of felt pens or something for her coloring book every time she went to the psych ward, that she has so many coloring sets now. And she, from what I remember, like she was definitely on medication, like a mood stabilizer or something like that. She was diagnosed with bipolar or whatever. But it's like, how well is the medication working if you're, having to have the interventions constant? Like, it obviously is not resolving the problem, is just what I'm saying. Like, it can help. Like, maybe it would have been so much worse for her if she wasn't on that medication. But yeah, it's just, it's it's coming full circle. Like, also why I have felt so, just haven't resonated with planet Earth, just haven't felt comfortable here and with what goes on. And being an emotional person, being someone that was just maybe more open with my emotions and more vulnerable, that I got conditioned to shut that off, to reject that part of myself, to feel like that's the wrong part of me, like that's what's wrong or whatever. Yeah, I got conditioned to emotionally shut down. And I think a lot of that, it's a cultural thing, but it was just the ways that I was sort of handled as a child. It's just annoying that it's like, I don't want to criticize parents, or like I'm generalizing. It's just, it's annoying that children a lot of times are raised to just be obedient children, to just be like children that don't cause you as many problems. It's just, in my opinion, it's just quite selfish for the parent, because like the child is supposed to be, in my opinion, and scientifically speaking, at this point, like when the children's raised in a specific way, they are a more healthy, like functioning person in society, a more whole being with like a whole identity and in touch with their feelings, and not as much risk for mental illness, stuff like that. Like when a kid's emotional needs are met. But like when you just teach the kid to shove down their feelings and stuff, it's just not cool. And yeah, I don't know, I have been thinking about having kids a lot, because I'm gonna be 30 in like a day. And I used to, maybe when I was like 27-ish, like I started to have the panic of, oh, I'm getting older, and like, oh, I guess I have this many eggs and this much time till I can have children, this, that. And like I was freaked out about the thought of not at all having children. But as I've healed a lot more, I'm really okay with not having children. Like at this point, I refuse to have children unless I am stable enough in the sense that like that I have more of a handle on my stress and stress levels, and just that I would be capable to fully revolve my entire life around that child. Like obviously you need a break at some point and stuff, but pretty much when you're raising a child, you are revolving your life around them. Like it's not, again, in my opinion, but it's not a reciprocal relationship. Like for it to be healthy for like that child to have a full sense of self and um have less stress levels, lower stress levels and stuff like that. Also, it's 2 a.m., so I'm having a hard time formulating my sentences and stuff, so bear with me. But and now I'm gonna blank and forget exactly what I was talking about. But what was I talking about? Oh yeah, it's not a reciprocal relationship. It's kind of just a give, and the child does take because they are completely vulnerable. When like we are probably, I think we're the only species pretty much besides other types of like apes or whatever that are infants for the first however many years of their life. Like they're completely dependent on it. Like they're vulnerable. Like they will fully die. They have to be, their neck can't even like hold itself. Like you have to fully support their neck and everything in that. And it was talking about in the book, it was an indigenous culture that said they had a rule that for the first 2 years of a baby's life, like they are not allowed to touch the ground. Like they are just supposed to be being held all the time, constantly. I know, I don't know if it's the bonobo, some type of monkey ape species thing. I watched some nature documentary thing one time about it. Like they carry around their infant, like the baby, from what I recall, especially like the very very beginning. Well obviously yeah, babies can't walk, but like they are carrying that thing in this like I don't know why I have a feeling that they had like a satchel. Like obviously these monkeys can't like make and have like I don't know if it like had, it was like a kangaroo, it had a pouch, like I don't know, the baby just like was always, maybe it was just holding it. I don't know how its arm didn't get tired, or maybe the baby like sat on its back or whatever. Like it was like doing everything, and the baby was like just, yeah, just always in the mother's arms, always, always. And I think like I want to do more research stuff at some point. There's got to be a moment of like too much coddling at a certain age and stuff, but in Western culture, at least from my understanding, like we're thinking way too early on. It's like, oh, the baby's trying to manipulate you and just get what it wants, and so you need to ignore it and like not tend to it when it's crying, and that's like, okay, the thing is like a tiny little, like it's not 13, I don't know, and just trying to get its way and actually is capable of manipulation or whatever. So yeah, there's that stuff. It's just, yeah. So back to, yeah, thinking about whether I want to have kids or not. Like I will not bring a child into this world if it's, I was gonna say just for the sake of my own self. Like is it ever, I guess giving life is a gift, maybe, sort of, but in my opinion, as long as like you're given something good and chill and not like sucky. So like I will not bring a child into this world unless I'm capable of providing it with the adequate amount of like emotional needs that it requires, and to have a healthy self-esteem and upbringing, that, and then besides that, like things out of my control, like I refuse to bring a child into this world if the culture is just sucky. Like I don't like it here a lot of the time, the majority of the time, like I need to accept what I can and cannot change, or whatever the saying goes, or control. But like it's changing, which makes me happy. But the current cultural landscape, uh, I just felt like I didn't belong in that, and I'm feeling like, again, it's progressing. It's like getting more. Just the last however many years, like mental health has been a thing that's like, it's not this, there's been destigmatization of it, because when I was going through it in my teenage years, like in high school, I did feel like I told my one person, I ended up telling maybe a few other people, like I just was really ashamed, like it wasn't a thing. It wasn't, I guess I knew the word anxiety, but I almost felt like I had to Google to find out. Like we weren't really talking about it at all. So it has really, really come a long way, but it's still not there yet with um I don't know, like the knowledge. And okay, the other thing that was really bothering me too is just I was listening to this lady on the podcast is Diary of a CEO, and I can't remember her name at all, but she was talking a lot about she was talking about fasting at the beginning, and then she was talking about women and women's menstrual cycles and like hormones and everything like that, and stuff that I didn't really realize that I don't really know that I need to know, that it would just help me a lot and my partner. Like she recommends your like romantic partner knowing your menstrual cycle, because you just get surges of different hormones at different times that just cause you at specific times. Yes, they do cause you to be kind of a bitch, and it's really hard to control. Um, and there's like a way to go about it that's not gonna piss us off as much, to maybe just make note of like, hey, like what, just curious, like what day you are in your cycle, instead of just being like, are you on your period, you're bitchy. Like there's a way to say it that's not as much offending or whatever. But she was like, okay, so day one to this, she's gonna have like a lot of, I'm also probably getting it wrong with all the hormone stuff, but something like, oh, on day one of her cycle, she gets all this progesterone or whatever. That's how you say it, progesterone, I don't know. And so she's actually going to be more productive, or like wanting to talk and engage and this like that. It's like day 12 to whatever, you're going to want to leave her alone because she's going to like be low testosterone or something, and that's going to whatever. And it's a whole month thing, because yeah, it's not just, I definitely get symptoms before my period. Like I don't keep track anymore, and I used to, but like I know when it's coming because I get specific symptoms, or I know it. Like I don't really have any accidents because I just, shit changes, like the vibe changes, like something be going on, because something be going on in my brain, because these hormones are like raging. And just what I don't like culturally too is, thank God I'm so lucky that I don't have an actual job. Like I don't work anymore in the actual workforce, whatever. But when I did, like, it's just not acceptable. You had to lie. You can't just like not go. It's just the culture of it, just like the work culture of not ever taking a day off, like just being so shameful about ever having to take a day off, and that it was just so much more valued and stuff if you just like overworked yourself and all this. And yeah, it would just be like, hell no, you can't have the first day of your period off, like every month, take that one day off every single month. Like I would end up taking maybe a day off a month sometime, or that like but I'd have to call in sick. I couldn't be like, oh, it's because I'm on my period. Like maybe I don't think I ever did this, but maybe I could have been understood if I was like, hey, I have like really, really bad cramps and I can't come. But even then I felt like I would have had to have a disorder, like, hey, I have what's it called, PMDD something. It's like when you have really really intense periods and stuff, and like you have really bad pain. I did get bad cramps when I was younger, and I was prescribed Tylenol 3s for them at one point, so they were pretty intense. But this lady on the Diary of a CEO podcast, I will have to link the thing in the description after, but she was actually saying you can like prep for your actual period the week before. She said that's when you're supposed to be resting and not doing much. And she specifically, like her staff, I think she owns a business or does something, whatever. She's like a business lady. Her staff like knows her cycle. Or she said they should. I don't know if they do yet, but like she really caters to it and honors it and revolves things around it, and like certain tasks and things, like she does just honor her body more, and on those days that she's not feeling as much into it, or like knowing just it being validated when it's like, oh yeah, this is when I'm having all this progesterone hormone or whatever, and so I'm feeling more tired or or well, her specifically, I think she's like going through menopause or perimenopause, which is just sounds like hell on earth from what she was saying basically. She's like, I know when I just can't do another Zoom call, like I can't do another meeting, I'm just like tired. And she's like, normally she'd maybe feel like a failure or something like that. But she also said something that was some people would consider like quite controversial, was like women are not meant to, like biologically, we're not actually necessarily like meant to handle the stress of a lot of jobs that males do, because we are different. There are differences, obviously. And so this culture, this annoying culture, it's not everyone. It's kind of a fringe movement, but it's kind of not, because it's like literally being instilled, like this ideology with the like, now that men and women are the exact same and everything. And it's like instilled in like all our institutions and stuff, like in Canada. Well, maybe not that thing, obviously, like that's not at all, but like in certain spaces, and it's just weird. It's just kind of weird. It's just weird because like obviously they know, like it's just, there's like two things going on at once. There's like the woke stuff going on at the same time as like at least we still are, it's maybe different for someone who's not identifying as a woman but is biologically a woman. Like I don't know how the doctors are handling like specific medical issues. Like, are they scared to offend the person in this and not actually, are they being like, oh yeah, you don't have the same hormones as biological women because you are not, or you don't identify as that, or this and that, or whatever. I don't know. It's just the whole, the sports thing, it trips me up still, obviously. Like I've talked about it on this channel a little bit. You know, trans women competing in female sports and stuff like that. And just on the period thing alone now, like us having the cycles, like yes, there can be like unfair advantages within the female category with sports. Like that's the argument for the woke people who are like, of course, you know, trans women should compete with women, like they are women and this and that. Like their argument is that like, well, it's already unfair. Like you already have unfair advantage and you can't control that. Like some women maybe have a little bit more testosterone than others and this and that. But it's obviously still way different, and it's way more fair when you don't have like biological males competing who, like, okay, so this lady, again, on the Diaries of CEO podcast, which I knew her name, the mental, like, yes, okay, women, yes, we are a little bit, woo, we're riding that wave of hormones. Obviously, like, it does affect us. It affects our emotions. And like, maybe, I think there's maybe variation, like some people, well, there are people that do have like hormonal disorders where they have like really more intense mood swings from the hormones, or their period is like way more, whatever, they actually have to take hormone therapy because they get too much of one of the hormones, so they gotta like balance it out, or they have to go on birth control because their periods are just so heavy and crazy, whatever. But in general, like, yes, women are more emotional, but it's not a bad thing at all. Like, we are supposed to like nurture the child and connect with the child, and like the men, biologically speaking, were meant to provide and hunt and gather and whatever. Maybe we did some of the gathering, I don't know. We're obviously still doing active things. We were like carrying the kid around all the time. Our arms would have gotten pretty tired for that. But yeah, this isn't like to say like, oh, women can't do really physically intense things. I, for one thing, only liked to do labor jobs. Like, I hated standing around being a cashier. Like, I went tree planting, I went firefighting. I had a doctor tell me I shouldn't be firefighting because I'm a female. I was not doing any intense firefighting whatsoever. We would literally just like walk around and spray a hose. Like, we went where it was already burnt. It was not actually physically strenuous. It was just a lot of walking. So yeah, I don't like a lot of different jobs, but I know for me especially, because, well, I have anxiety and stuff like that, but like, I could not handle like, I just overthink and I worry and I have a lot of empathy, and like, I could not be a CEO of a company. I could not be a manager. I could not be having a certain level of responsibility. Like, the stress would just get to me. So, and we have our cycle, that's we're fluctuating, but she was saying men are pretty pretty they don't have these spikes like we do with the hormones and stuff like that. She did say, because the guy, he was like, on the podcast, he was like, and do men have their own kind of version of a period in some sort of way? And she was like, yeah, but it's a lot different. And I think she said that men every 12 minutes get testosterone or something like that. So then she said there's this saying, talk to him in 12 minutes and see if, and then it's like a different conversation or something like that. I don't know. I'd have to learn a lot more about it. Like, I'm obviously butchering all the information and everything, but you maybe get the gist. So where are we going with this? Culturally, like, we're just so detached, I feel, from our bodies, for one thing. And it's like, I want to do a whole thing on the public school system. I want to do a whole thing on the ick of the public school system and it not respecting our bodies. I don't know if they're still doing this. I don't know if they're still pulling this shit where it's just like they discourage you from going to the bathroom when you need to go to the bathroom. It's like, oh no, you need to like wait till recess, or like not right now. Like, I don't remember that actually being a thing, like maybe earlier on or something. But certain places in schools, well, I see it in movies where it's like, oh, you need a hall pass to go to the bathroom. Or, oh, in Mean Girls, she like asks to go to the bathroom. She's like, can I go? I'm going to the washroom. And he's just like, yeah, no, sit down. Like, what? Why? What's, she's gonna miss 2 minutes of an 8-hour long lecture? For one thing, we shouldn't be sitting inside under fluorescent, just horrible, icky lighting, sitting still in a desk for 8 hours straight. Like, yes, there's gym class, I guess, but the ratio is just like way off. Like, academics versus actually outdoor time, being in nature or whatever. So, yeah, it's like, the public school system, other things, institutions like need to, I feel, respect women's cycles. For one thing, like, it should not be, you should not have to come up with a lie or any excuse if you're on your period. Like, especially it's like the first day of your period and you're just like really crampy, not feeling well, you should be able to just like miss school. I'm sure it's different now. Like, I don't know what's going on, but I heard about this person I listened to on Patreon. Her name's Jessa Reed. Like, she was talking about her kids that are in the public school system. They were homeschooled for so long, but they wanted to try out public school. But she raised them like a certain way to respect their bodies and all that and have autonomy, that it's just like, what the heck's going on. Like, so they will miss school like more than the average kid. Like, I guess she got the principal, whoever was trying to just like was giving her, the mom, a hard time because the kid had missed, I think, like 12 classes in a year or something like that, but she was getting like straight A's. She was getting like such good grades, but it was still an issue. And so she's like, what does it matter though, if she's getting good grades? And the principal said something like, it's not about the quality of, it's like about the amount of time spent or something in the classroom. Like, the public school system comes from, I believe it was like, what was Russia before Russia? It's so late and I can't remember the, not Prussia. Is Prussia a totally different thing? Like the Russian, I don't know, the school system comes from, can't think of like what Russia used to be, whatever it called before it was like Russia. But it came from, I can't because I haven't also researched this recently, but like the public school system was like inspired by like Russian war protocol. Like they were trying to indoctrinate soldiers and stuff like that. Like apparently I think someone in the States took the protocol that they were using to make good soldiers and stuff like that, and implemented it into the school system. Or like there was school before the public school system, like in the West as we know it today, exists, like with the bells, like having the bells, the like the recess, lunch, this, and the schedule and the structure, and just like being disciplined and sitting at your desk and this, and just like all this. Did we like sing the anthem every day? No, I don't think we did. Do some schools do that? I don't know. It's like a weird, it's not about learning, obviously. Like they don't teach you how to do taxes. They don't teach you actual life skills. You just like learn a bunch of bullshit that you'll never use. And it's more so about creating good employees, like good disciplined employees that don't care about their own self and self-autonomy and their own needs, and just serve a business or big corporation or whatever, and don't care about their health and just work themselves till they're overworked and just unhealthy and whatever. So that's what that's about. But I wish I could Google so I could find out the Russia thing, whatever. Because it's bothering me, like not having any of the actual factual information at hand, but we're just gonna have to talk about that another time. Okay, I think I'm gonna try to go to bed now, I guess, but yeah, good night. You guys need to get to bed. It's late, or maybe it's not late where you are. Okay, or you don't need to get to bed. Listen to your body, do what your body wants, respect yourself and your bodily needs and autonomy. Okay,